Welcome to another episode of The Art of NVC. What is NVC? Well, NVC stands for Nonviolent Communication. And what does that mean? Because that's even the creator, it was created by Marshall Rosenberg in the 70s. He was a psychologist and he brought together a bunch of different modalities from around the world and psychology, and he merged it into this technique. And it's a way of speaking that is very helpful for resolving issues. And everybody who's alive knows you're going to have issues, especially with other people and yourself and your job, your friends, and your family. There's going to be issues and problems. So nonviolent communication is a way of speaking that helps you navigate those tricky areas without implying someone's bad and wrong, without judging them. You don't need to judge. It's amazing. You can actually speak with zero judgments. It's a beautiful thing. I highly recommend it. And there's certain guidelines that NVC uses it's not like it's some miracle cure-all, but it's very powerful and very effective. And it will help you to just be a more effective communicator. Sometimes, no matter how good your nonviolent communication is, people are still going to get triggered and lash out, and then you have emergency empathy to deal with that. But NVC, it kind of helps you become aware of the common pitfalls of trying to communicate with sensitive people or through tricky conversations. It's very helpful for drawing boundaries. I would say one of the biggest principles in nonviolent communication is being authentic. You don't really need to lie. You don't ever need to lie. You can just speak the truth. However, sometimes we speak in a way that as if it's the truth, but what we're saying is the other person is bad and wrong, and that's the truth. That's not the truth. That's a judgment. Judgments are never the truth. Judgments are opinions. They're not verifiable. They're not provable. They're just, I think this. That's fine. You can think whatever you want. The problem is when we use these verbal tricks where we say, I'm thinking, you're this, and we speak it like a fact, but it's not a fact. It's an opinion. So nonviolent communication just really helps you become aware of all your judgments and the tricks of language that are subtly implying that the other person is bad and wrong or responsible for how you feel. Now, nonviolent communication will just help you clean up your language so that you're never implying someone else is bad or wrong. You speak in facts. You speak with 100% authenticity. And you express your preferences and your personal experience. And it's beautiful because especially when you're dealing with a loved one that you're having a conflict with. Sometimes I know someone who's struggling with relationships with their parents and your wife, spouse, ex. It's just going to happen. And so what NVC will do, it'll help you navigate those tricky conversations. For instance, there's so many little pitfalls. That's why it's kind of complicated because there are so many pitfalls, but it's actually also at the same time, it's simple. So a brief overview of what nonviolent communication is would be this. You use this to draw boundaries, find solutions, okay? First step is to bring up whatever the issue is that you're having and bring attention to it. And you do that by using observable facts, if possible. Sometimes it's not possible to use an observable fact. What's an observable fact? It's like, I see that the dishes are in the sink. I see that you borrowed my car and you brought it back to me and it's on empty. Let's use that. That's the analogy we're going to use. You loan your friend a car. They were in need. They bring it back to you and it's on empty, even though it was full before. And so you feel a little frustrated. And you bring it up to them, and this is a friend who maybe is very sensitive. So what you'd want to do is use an observable fact as the first step. Hey, I loaned you my car the other day, and when you took it, it was full, and when you brought it back, it was on empty. Those are observable facts. Now, and then the next step would be how you feel. And you want to be authentic. You want to be real. Okay? When you express how you really feel, it's very powerful. it brings connection. It's a vulnerable act to admit how you feel, because we don't want to admit when we don't feel great. And if you express how you feel without implying the other person is responsible for it, that's key. So you say, the right way would be, hey, you brought my car the other day. When I loaned it to you, it was full, and when you brought it back, it was empty. I'm feeling, and you want to be honest, I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling annoyed. You don't want to be like, I'm feeling, and go on some long tangent, or you don't want to use a fake feeling like this. I'm feeling disrespected. That's not a feeling. A feeling doesn't imply someone's doing something to you. Disrespected is you did something to me that was wrong and bad. You should change. I don't need to change, and you're responsible for my pain. So anything that implies something is done to you, that's not a feeling, it's a judgment. So you want to use, I feel upset, in single words. I feel angry. I feel angry. I feel angry. That's powerful to say that. But if you say, it made me angry, now you're blaming them for how you feel. You don't want to do that. You just want to speak, I feel. So you borrowed the car, you brought it back on empty when it was full, and when I loaned it to you, I'm feeling upset. Why? Because I had the expectation that you were going to bring it back to me the way I loaned it to you, and that's how I would like it. See, right there, why do I feel that way? Because I had an expectation, because I had a preference, because I value, because something is important to me. That's why you feel the way. If you didn't care, say you're a billionaire, millionaire, multimillionaire, and they borrow the car and they bring it, you could care less. You have one of your servants go fill it up. Doesn't matter. So the same thing could have happened, and if you were super rich, you wouldn't care at all. But or maybe you would. It doesn't matter. It's just, what is your preference? So you have to state that. Now, if you say, I'm feeling upset because you brought it back on empty, that might sound correct and true, but it's not true, because now you're blaming them. I feel upset because you did that. That's the violent part. That's the part that gets worse results. And that's the part that's totally unnecessary. You have to think, when you're communicating in these situations, what are you trying to achieve? Do you want them to feel bad? Do you want them to feel sad? Or do you just want to get your gas tank filled up? Or do you want to prevent this from happening again in the future? Those are the key things. Those are more likely what you want, instead of having them feel bad or sad or irritated or to shame them into change. That doesn't work. So you just say, I feel upset because I wanted you to bring back the car the way that I gave it to you. And then the last step, so that's the third step, is why you feel how you do. And then the fourth step is the specific request. And you want to be specific. You don't want to be vague if you want results. There's 3 different types of requests, because they're very useful. And you're gonna have to, if you really want to learn NVC, it does take a while to get all this information really at your fingertips. So that's why I'm doing. I've already said all of this basically in previous episodes, but I think it's helpful to hear it again and again and again, and to keep practicing and to keep being reminded, because in the heat of the moment, everybody knows who's ever tried NVC. It's a lot more. It's a little bit stressful, because you're trying to be conscious when you're feeling aggravated, the other person's feeling aggravated. You say one wrong thing, things can go sideways real quick. So it is a little challenging. So that's why we're doing this. So the 3 types of requests are the connection-based, the clarity, and the action-based. So the easiest to understand is the action-based, where you just say, could you go fill up the gas tank again for me today? Right? That's an action-based request. It's specific. It's not vague. Vague would be like, could you be a little more respectful? Could you promise to not do stuff like that anymore? It's like, what are you really saying? Specific is, could you go do that right now, or in this time frame? The clarity-based request is, it's almost like, the beauty of the clarity is like you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're like, hey, this thing happened I didn't like. I'm wondering why that happened. Is there a plausible reason that it happened? So you say, I just want to know why you brought it back on empty. But the reason why I call this the art of NVC is because it is a bit of an art form. Every situation is different and nuanced, and you want to just kind of flow with the situation and the circumstances. Maybe you don't really care about them filling up the tank this time. You just want them to know that you didn't like how that happened. And in the future, if this ever happens again, you would expect them to leave the car filled up. So that's where the connection-based request is. And this is very useful, and it's subtle. A lot of times we think we need to come up with a solution and have them do it right now. No, sometimes you just need awareness. So the connection-based is kind of, the way I look at it is it's just bringing awareness to what is happening to you, your experience. So that would sound something like this. You borrowed my car. When you took it, it was full. You brought it back on empty. I'm feeling, to be totally honest, I'm actually angry because I just expected you to understand that if I give it to you full, you'll bring it back to me with a full tank. Now that's on me. And here comes the connection-based request. I just wanted to let you know that that's how I'm feeling right now. Or you could say, does that make sense to you? Or do you understand where I'm coming from? These types of things. You're not saying go the action-based, go fill it up right now, which is fine. I mean, it's all your preferences. As long as you're not blaming them for how you feel, as long as you're not implying they're bad or wrong in any way, then you're basically being nonviolent. You're just communicating effectively. Now, if they get upset and triggered and start attacking back, you got to go to emergency empathy. You stop all NVC. And we'll get into that in many episodes. You can look in past ones or in future ones. And that's going to be very helpful. And you need them both. NVC and emergency empathy, it's yin and yang. You need them both. The one doesn't work without the other, because no matter how good you are at NVC, people are still going to get triggered. So that's a basic overview of nonviolent communication. It's just a very helpful way to speak when things are tense. And I know it's very powerful, because once you learn it, you'll be able to just navigate tricky conversations with ease. Maybe not with ease, but with skill and with confidence. And that's very helpful. I know I needed it. I use it regularly, and it helps me avoid little silly arguments, helps my relationships just be more smooth. And it also helps with friends when they're telling me issues or problems that they had. A lot of times they'll be like, I was being a perfect little angel. And then they started acting irrationally. And I'd be like, well, you did kind of, speak a little violently. It happens. It's fine. It's not, there's not perfection, but it can be very helpful. So I highly recommend using it. Hopefully this helped a bit on your communication journeys. If you want to learn more, you can always join my practice group. The next practice group is going to be Sunday. I always try to schedule them at the last Sunday of the month. So that'll be Sunday, the 26th of July, 2026. 1 o'clock Central Time. You can sign up on my Patreon.com/artofnvc. I also offer one-on-one consultations and group consultations. You can find them on my website, artofnvc.com. And this episode is brought to you by True Clue, an app I made with my Raw Light Labs company. This is an app that's very helpful if you're having some kind of issues, physical symptoms. Like the other day, I had a headache. And I was like, if this happens again, I didn't know why I had the headache. And it seemed like I was like, I kind of had a headache one day, and the next day I had a headache again. And I was like, why am I having a headache? Is it one of the supplements I'm taking? Did I eat something wrong? Turns out I think I was just a little dehydrated. But sometimes you have some weird symptoms and you're not sure what it's from. But a lot of times when we're having symptoms of something, it's from our diet. Not always. It can be other things. But I would say, in my unofficial opinion, and I'm not a doctor, but I'm saying a lot of times it's related to what you're eating. So True Clue will help you track your symptoms and your diet together to see if there's any correlation. Very helpful. It's on the App Store, the Apple App Store. True Clue, one word. So that's great. And then also sponsored by a book called To Be a Captain, which is a children's book. It's an allegorical book about servant leadership. And it's written by my wife, Juliana, and it's illustrated by my mom. And it's available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. And it's a great book. It's beautiful. No AI was used anywhere. And so it has that real natural, beautiful artwork feel. And so, yeah, if you're getting value from the podcast, those are some ways to support. If you'd like to come check out the practice group, but you can't afford it, it is $25 a month to be a part of the Patreon. shoot me an email at artofnvc@gmail.com. And your first one is free. I'll send you a link, and hey, we can do it. It's very helpful. It's very helpful to do the practice group. That's why I do it. It keeps it fresh with me. But even when you learn NVC, you got to go through reps of situations. So hope to see you guys there. It's very fun. And that's all for today.